The first distress signal was a whisper. Barely a pulse on the galactic comm-grid. A single chirp encoded with a failing signature, from a world forgotten by time and diplomacy alike. Nithal Prime requesting aid. Hostiles, overwhelming. Civilian evacuation failed. This is not a drill. It came from the fringe. Beyond the Syrinx belt. A dead zone officially. Uninhabitable. But like so many forgotten worlds, it had been quietly resettled over the years by refugees, by exiles, by those no one would come looking for. Except now someone was. And what followed was not just a response. It was an answer that shook the foundations of the galaxy. 300 light-years from Nithal Prime, inside the command nexus of the Vortexian Enclave, Counselor Trell dropped his drink. He hadn't even been listening at first. The comm signal tech had been mumbling something about fringe noise, likely pirate garbage or broken satellites. But then the name Nithal dropped from the speakers and Trell's blood froze. Because he had been there once. Decades ago. During the evacuation of the Corrales uprising. That planet should have died with the rebellion. And yet, now it was calling for help. From who? His fingers trembled as he replayed the message again. And again. This is not a drill. By the fourth playback, the emergency council was already assembling. By the 10th, half the galaxy had heard it. And by the 20th, the humans responded. Not with a whisper. But with a roar. In the far spiral arms of the Milky Way, near the shattered orbit of New Kyber, the United Terran Command received the ping. It bypassed every bureaucratic filter. It didn't wait in any approval queue. Because Nithal Prime's call wasn't meant for just anyone. It was tied to an ancient diplomatic protocol, one last used during the Athari Extinction Accord, when humanity vowed to protect any species that upheld three sacred principles. Civilian sanctuary was inviolable. War crimes would be punished by force. And genocide would never again go unanswered. Nithal Prime's ping was embedded with those codes. The signal was authentic. And so Earth listened. The room was dark except for the flickering displays on a colossal screen showing the outer sectors of Terran space. Admiral Ginare stood without moving, arms crossed behind his back. He wasn't a large man, nor particularly loud. But no one in that war room mistook his silence for hesitation. Location? He asked. Confirmed, said his aide. Fringe zone. Syrinx outpost confirms orbital invasion by unknown forces. Aggressor fleet size, unknown. Defensive capabilities, minimal. Civilian density, maximum. Another voice added, no allied fleets in range within 6 hours. A beat of silence passed. Then Admiral Ginare said 3 words. Launch the call. And the galaxy changed. The first wave left Titan drydock within 2 minutes. Massive world burners. Titan-class dreadnoughts. Vulture carriers and Ghost Runner corvettes all surged from orbital hangars like a tide of steel. From Mars, Saturn, Vega, and beyond, every Terran fleet not bound by treaty or internal security rose from dockyards like awakened gods. By the 20th minute, nearly 12,000 human warships were in motion. No declaration of war. No diplomatic stall. No hesitation. Just a single unified command echoing across fleet channels. By the Pact of Nithal. Engage all hostiles. Evacuate civilians. Eliminate genocide-class threats. Do not wait for Parliament. This operation is sanctioned by Protocol Black. Humanity remembers. Meanwhile, on Nithal Prime, things were breaking fast. The skies were a furnace. Plasma bombs screamed down through the upper atmosphere, cracking ancient city spires like twigs. Streets choked with smoke and chaos as towering siege beasts, Karnathi brutes, later identified, swept through refugee zones without mercy. Their ships were crude, jagged things built for intimidation, not beauty. Their ground troops wore flesh-stripped armor and sprayed acidic weapons that ate through walls and bone alike. This wasn't conquest. This was purge. And the local defenders, barely a militia, had already fallen. A child named Ilari screamed as her mother shoved her into a hidden chamber beneath a half-collapsed house. The mother kissed her once. Then ran toward the incoming war beast with a mining drill in hand. It wasn't even a fight. Not yet. But then the sky changed. Orbit trembled. Not metaphorically. Literally. The space around Nithal Prime shifted like water caught in vacuum as gravity wells collapsed, reshaping transit lanes in real time. Emergency shields meant to stop debris were melted instantly as Terran warships folded in. But they didn't just appear one by one. They arrived together. In formation. A wall of star battleships that stretched from horizon to horizon. It was the largest rapid deployment in the recorded history of the known galaxy. Not one ship. Not 10. Not 100. 12,000. Warships. And they did not ask questions. Admiral Jean-R.A. stood aboard the bridge of the TSV Widow's right, eyes locked on the live feed of Nithal's surface. It was worse than intel suggested. Civilian zones had already suffered massive loss. The invaders had set fire to entire forests, poisoned rivers, detonated shock bombs that erased centuries of habitat. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he opened a direct fleet-wide line. "People of Nithal Prime," he said, voice calm but resonant. "We heard you." All across the planet, hidden radios, broken terminals, and damaged datapads buzzed and crackled with the message. "You are not forgotten." In a refugee bunker, a child who had just lost her father looked up at the voice. Her tear-streaked cheeks lit with a flicker of hope. "In 10 minutes, the first wave will drop. Stay low. Hold on. We're coming." The Karnathi brutes were a nomadic war clan, known for raiding unaligned worlds. They considered themselves untouchable, too scattered to be traced, too brutal to be opposed. They'd fought the Ival, broken the arms of the Talari Confederation, and gutted the Virek lords on live galactic broadcast. They were apex predators of space. But they had never fought humans. Not like this. The first orbital strike came from low orbit. A Terran plasma lance the size of a moonbeam carved through the Karnathi command ship. No warning. No posturing. Just one focused line of energy that pierced the ship's core, boiled its fuel cells, and shattered it into a sunburst of fire. Every Karnathi vessel in orbit tried to scatter, but found themselves surrounded. Terran ships locked gravitational nets and fired microdrones that tore through hulls like bone saws. Groundside drop pods screamed from the sky. But these weren't crewed shuttles. They were planetfall tanks, mobile bunkers that unfolded on impact, deploying entire platoons within seconds. And leading them? Humans. Not diplomats. Not contractors. Terran combat veterans trained for one thing: the rapid removal of genocidal threats. They moved like a storm. Fire teams flanked Karnathi brutes before they could react. Sniper squads took out commanders mid-sentence. Anti-tank drones burrowed beneath siege beasts and exploded upward in showers of blood and steel. One squad, Echo 7, broke into a hospital dome, cleared the upper floors, and began med-evacuating civilians within 3 minutes of entry. Another unit, Ghost Hawk 14, deployed signal beacons that projected safe zone corridors, allowing thousands of trapped non-combatants to escape. And behind them? The ships. Terran warships did not remain idle in orbit. They rewrote the battlefield in real time. LASATs fired with pinpoint precision. EMP pulse strikes disabled invader communications. Even the soil itself was manipulated, with sonic drills generating earthquakes under Karnathi armor columns. Within 30 minutes of arrival, the invaders were in retreat. Admiral Jean-R.A. received a secure ping. It was from Groundside Command. A brief message. "We have eyes on the girl. Name, Ilari. Target safe. Mother confirmed deceased. Request evac to Valkyrie Med Cruiser." He closed the comm and nodded. "Tell her," he said softly. Her voice reached us. Nithal Prime did not fall. But it came so close that the rest of the galaxy held its breath. And whispered a new phrase with awe and terror. They sent 12,000 ships, because one planet called. The aftermath was silent. Too silent. For a full hour after the Terran assault ended, the skies above Nithal Prime were filled with nothing but cooling debris and drifting Karnathi corpses. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Even the great furnaces aboard the Terran battleships dimmed, as if honoring the dead, Nithalian and Karnathi alike. And then the echoes began to ripple. Not in sound. In consequences. 3 jump sectors away, inside the Cradle of Thorns, homeworld of the Karnathi clans, Warlord Zakyar the Bloodhorn slammed his warclaw down so hard that his throne split in half. "What do you mean we lost the forward fleet?" His generals squirmed. Even the most ruthless among them had never seen Zakyar like this. His breath came in snarls. He had been preparing to stream the massacre of Nithal as a message to lesser species. He had already prepared the speech, the graphics, the trophies, and now his elite fleet was gone. Vaporized. Humiliated. Overwhelmed. "Who interfered?" he growled. A whisper came from the shadows. "Humans." Zakyar went still. He had never fought humans. Never needed to. They kept to themselves. Their territory was a fortress, but they didn't go beyond it. They were a last resort force. Always reactive. Slow to move. Calculating. Except, not this time. 12,000 warships had moved like a tidal wave. Not a word of warning. Not a treaty delay. Liars, he hissed. There are not 12,000 Terran warships active at once. There are now, another voice said grimly. And suddenly, everyone in the chamber understood. The humans hadn't just responded. They had been ready. Back on Nithal Prime, the smell of blood still hung in the air. The fires were dying down, and rescue teams moved through the wreckage like ants rebuilding a shattered colony. Drones hovered in the air, scanning for life signs. Every breath was heavy with soot and sorrow. In the ruins of what had once been a university tower, Ilari sat on a stretcher inside a mobile medbay. Her eyes were too old for a child's face. Her hands trembled despite the blanket. She didn't cry anymore. She just stared. Across from her, a Terran medic named Armin gently placed a bottle of water in her hand. She didn't move. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe now." Her eyes finally flicked up. "You came," she whispered. He nodded, unsure how to respond. She said again, louder this time. "You really came." Terran Command didn't just evacuate survivors. They catalogued every corpse. Every melted building. Every war crime. Evidence was transmitted in real time to the Galactic Council, accompanied by a simple message. This was Nithal Prime. This was who attacked it. This is what they did. We are enacting Article 91. We expect cooperation. The council chambers in Orelise Prime exploded with uproar. Many had grown soft, comfortable. Some hadn't even known humans still kept protocols for frontier violations. But the footage was irrefutable. The corpses of Karnathi brutes. The children pulled from fire-buried shelters. The women crucified on anti-grav spires. One by one, even the most stubborn counselors went quiet. Except for one. Torkan Vel, a Zirathai noble and diplomat of considerable influence, stood. "We must urge caution," he said. Murmurs rose. Everyone listened when Vel spoke. Humanity cannot be allowed to operate without oversight. They responded with disproportionate force. 12,000 ships? Against a raiding clan? Those ships saved 40,000 civilians, someone countered. And destroyed 1,000 more in orbital crossfire, Vel said coldly. Who watches the watchers? He paused. Perhaps it is time we remind the Terrans that the galaxy has laws. Even they must follow them. He didn't realize, until it was far too late, that his speech was being broadcast directly to Admiral Jean-Ra. Inside the TSV Widow's right, the Admiral heard every word. He didn't react visibly. But his officers glanced at him, concerned. One leaned over. He's posturing. Vel wants the Karnathi trade routes. He's setting up for a political pivot. Jean-Ra simply nodded. Then he opened a direct channel, not encrypted. Not private. Broadcast to the council. His face appeared mid-sentence, cutting through Vel's speech like a blade through silk. This is Admiral Jean-Ra of the United Terran Command. Silence followed. He continued. You mistake mercy for weakness. We sent 12,000 ships. We could have sent 30,000. We didn't. Every species watching leaned forward. We operate under the laws of the Pact. We responded to genocide. That's not war. That's duty. If you want to debate the ethics of saving children, do it on your own time. He leaned slightly forward. But if you want to stand in our way... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. In the Karnathi cradle, Zakar paced. Humans had changed the game. They had gone from quiet giants to galactic arbiters in a single strike. His fleet was broken. But he still had cards. He sent a call to the Rockery Syndicate, a collective of mercenaries and slavers who thrived in the outer darkness. He offered them half his armory. Access to captured wormholes. Unrestricted pillaging rights on Nithal's moon. In return? One thing. Retaliation. The Syndicate accepted. Within a day, 23 Rockery strike cruisers jumped toward Nithal. And humanity was waiting. But the humans didn't just wait with ships this time. They sent people. Ambassadors. Engineers. Doctors. Architects. Within days of the Syndicate jump, Nithal's shattered cities had been replaced with floating med domes. Defensive satellite grids encircled the planet. A new AI-managed terraforming project began to cleanse poison rivers. The human war fleet didn't just win. It stayed. They helped rebuild. Which meant when the Rockery strike group emerged, expecting a wounded world ripe for plunder, they arrived at a fortress. Admiral Jean-Ra didn't even look up from his report when the Rockery arrived. Instead he gave a simple command. Let them approach. Terran fighters didn't launch. No orbital lances. Just silence. The Rockery fleet, arrogant from decades of unchecked raids, advanced into low orbit. And then, 12,000 human warships reactivated all at once. Every single gun, bay, lance, drone port, missile pod, laser array, and EMP launcher turned at the exact same moment. The Rockery fleet stopped dead. They broadcast a hail. SCI-FI finally looked up. Open channel. The Rockery commander, ugly, cyber-augmented, voice rasping like a dying engine, snarled into view. "You're bluffing." SCI-FI's expression didn't change. He spoke one word. Fire. The battle was over in 8 minutes. None of the Rockery ships escaped. Not one. One civilian on Nithal posted a short clip to the galactic net. It showed hundreds of plasma trails lighting the sky. One by one, Rockery ships exploded in silence, fireworks across the clouds. The post's caption read, "We asked for help. The humans never left." It was viewed 3 billion times in 24 hours. And then came the unexpected result. Species from across the galaxy began broadcasting their own beacons. Some sent pings just like Nithal had, coded cries for help from the fringe. Others sent messages not of desperation, but of invitation. A small mining colony on Arcos 4 broadcast, "To any Terran ship within range, we're building a school. We could use teachers." A merchant world near the Yethari expanse sent, "Our trade station is open to humans. We want to talk." And then dozens more. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy didn't just fear humanity, it trusted them. But not everyone celebrated. Behind closed doors, within deep halls of empire and shadow, alliances began to fracture. There were whispers now of a second galactic Cold War. This time not between equals but between the United Terran Command and everyone else trying to pretend they weren't afraid. Because when one planet calls for help, and 12,000 Terran ships show up, you have to ask, how many more are out there? And who's next? The calm after the Rockery destruction was deceptive. The galaxy, now whispering the name Terrans, with a mixture of fear and admiration, was quietly reshaping itself. But beneath the surface, ancient grudges and hidden alliances began to stir like a dormant volcano waking to life. Admiral SCI-Fi's flagship, the TSV Widow's Right, hung like a steel guardian in orbit around Nithal Prime. The admiral stood on the bridge, eyes sharp as shards of ice, watching the stars flicker in and out of hyperspace lanes. His crew moved with a precise choreography born of years on the edge of war. The human fleet was no longer just a rescue force. It was a statement. Humanity was here to stay and it would no longer be ignored. "We need to consolidate control," SCI-Fi said quietly to his second-in-command, Commander Elara Voss. "This sector will be a crucible. The Council will debate our every move but we cannot hesitate." Voss nodded. "The Council's divisions are growing. Some praise us as saviors, others brand us imperialists." SCI-Fi's jaw tightened. Imperialists? If saving a planet from annihilation is imperialism, then we wear the title with pride. Meanwhile, in the great council chambers of Orelise Prime, tension soared like plasma storms. The Zirathai diplomat Torken Vel paced again, his temper fraying. The defeat of the Karnathi forward fleet and the obliteration of the Rockery strike group had rocked the delicate balance of power. The council's arrogance was shattered, replaced by anxious calculation. "We must contain the humans," Vel declared in a meeting with other representatives. "Their unchecked expansion threatens to destabilize every trade route, every alliance." A chorus of murmurs echoed agreement, but dissenting voices emerged. The Clary delegate, a sleek, serpentine figure with luminescent scales, countered, "Containment will lead to war. We should invite the Terrans to cooperate, share resources. The galaxy changes and we must adapt." "But at what cost?" Vel snarled. "They bring fleets larger than many nations combined. How do we know they won't decide to rewrite the galaxy's laws to their liking?" The debate raged, the lines being drawn for a conflict not yet fought. Far from the political theater, the Karnathi warlord Zakar the Bloodhorn retreated into the shadowy heart of his empire, nursing wounds deeper than those of his shattered fleet. His fury was a furnace burning brighter each day. "How could we lose to humans?" he spat to his lieutenants. "They arrived like gods with fire. Our ancestors survived the Void Wars, yet these Terran upstarts crushed us like insects." One of his generals, a scarred veteran named Drakthal, spoke carefully. "Warlord, the humans are not merely warriors. Their weapons, their strategies, they are a force unlike any we have faced." Zakiar's eyes blazed. "Then we must become the storm they fear. Gather the clans. Call the hidden allies. The galaxy will remember the Karnathi name." Back on Nithal Prime, life slowly returned to a fragile rhythm. The meddomes and repair drones worked tirelessly. Survivors rebuilt homes, schools, and markets. Terran engineers introduced new technologies, sharing knowledge with the locals. Ilari, the young Nithalian girl who had survived the initial attack, began training with the Terran peacekeepers. Her sharp mind and fierce spirit made her a symbol of hope for her people. One evening, as stars blazed in the darkening sky, Ilari stood beside Admiral Jean-Ray, gazing out at the fleet. "They fear us," she said softly. Jean-Ray nodded. "They should. But fear is a tool. We must wield it wisely." Ilari's eyes shone. "Then let us teach them what it means to respect humanity." But the galaxy had not forgotten the shadows. A clandestine meeting unfolded in the depths of the Rockery Syndicate's hidden fortress. Representatives from the Syndicate, the Karnathi clans, and several other clandestine factions gathered around a holographic map of the sector. "The humans are not invincible," whispered the Syndicate leader, a tall, gaunt figure named Cress Vallis. "Their strength lies in their numbers and their technology. But even 1,000 ships have vulnerabilities." Zakiar's voice echoed through the chamber. "Then we will exploit those vulnerabilities. The Terrans do not expect war on multiple fronts." Vallis nodded grimly. "We will strike where they least expect. We will sever their supply lines, sabotage their alliances, and turn their own weapons against them." The factions agreed, forming a pact born of desperation and hatred. Back aboard the TSV Widow's Right, Jean-Ray's communications officer reported urgent messages from across the fleet. Reports of skirmishes, sabotage, and political upheaval flooded in. "We are at the dawn of something new," Jean-Ray murmured. "The galaxy is awakening. And we will either lead or be crushed beneath its weight." He stared at the stars, knowing the peace they had fought for was fragile, and the war to come would test humanity like never before. The galaxy held its breath. Every faction, every fleet, every hidden agent was poised on the edge of chaos. The pact formed in shadow by the Rockery Syndicate and the Karnathi clans had ignited a powder keg, and humanity was at its center. Admiral Jean-Ray stood on the bridge of the TSV Widow's Right, his gaze hard as steel. The stars outside had shifted, thousands of enemy vessels streaming toward the sector from multiple directions. This was no longer a rescue mission or a show of force. This was war. "Battle stations," Jean-Ray commanded. The fleet roared to life. "Report incoming," the communications officer snapped. "Multiple hostile fleets converging. Saboteurs detected in supply lines. We're cut off from reinforcements." Jean-Ray's lips pressed into a grim line. "Then we make this stand. For our allies. For the future of the galaxy." Ilari, now a trained peacekeeper and symbol of hope, led a rapid response team on Nithal Prime, working to protect civilians and vital infrastructure from sabotage. Her sharp instincts and fierce resolve turned the tide in localized fights, but even she knew the broader battle was only beginning. "Humanity's not just about firepower," Ilari told a squad of local militia. "It's about courage, unity, and never backing down." Her voice carried across the battlefield, igniting a fire in every soul. In the dark void beyond, the Karnathi warlord Zakar watched the unfolding war with savage delight. His forces had managed to cripple several supply convoys, and pockets of chaos spread through the Terran fleet. But Jean-Ray was no fool. "Your tactics delay us," Jean-Ray broadcasted to Zakiar's flagship, voice calm but deadly. "But you cannot stop the tide of change. Humanity fights for more than survival, we fight for the future." Zakar snarled, "Then you will die trying." Suddenly, from deep space a new fleet emerged, not human, not Karnathi, not Rockery. An ancient vessel, massive and glowing with unfamiliar technology, sliced through the darkness. It was the Elder Guardians, a forgotten race once thought extinct, awakened by the catastrophic battles threatening galactic balance. Their leader, a tall figure shimmering with ethereal light, addressed the combined fleets. "The galaxy teeters on the brink of destruction. Your war blinds you to a greater enemy, one that feeds on chaos and death." With that, the Elder Guardians unleashed a shockwave of energy that disabled all weapons temporarily, forcing a ceasefire. Admiral Jean-Ray stepped forward to meet this unexpected intervention. "We fight for peace, not endless war," Jean-Ray said firmly. "If you seek to protect the galaxy, join us. The future belongs to those who choose unity over division." The Elder Guardian studied him, then nodded slowly. "Very well. But know this, if your war endangers all life, we will be the galaxy's final judgment." The battle transformed into a fragile alliance. Humanity, the Karnathi, the Rockery Syndicate, and the Elder Guardians began negotiating a new order, one born from fire and tempered by necessity. Ilari stood with Jean-Ra at the forefront of these talks, representing hope for millions. As peace talks unfolded, the galaxy realized something profound. Humans were not conquerors or invaders. They were the unexpected force that could unite the stars. The war was over, but the story had just begun. Humanity's name was now etched across the cosmos, a symbol of relentless strength, unyielding hope, and the power to change even the darkest destinies. And as the stars whispered of a new era, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget the day 12,000 human warships showed up, not as invaders but as saviors. If you enjoyed this epic journey into humanity's rise among the stars, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More stories like this are coming, tales of courage, honor, and the unbreakable spirit of humans who changed the galaxy forever. Don't miss out. Join the fleet, subscribe now, and be part of the legend.